Good evening, Patriots. I'm Ed Henry. Welcome to Newsmax's 2-hour special honoring the incredible life and legacy of young conservative leader Charlie Kirk following his shocking assassination that has stunned the nation and is now becoming a turning point, you might say, for people far beyond our borders. Today, folks in South Korea were at a big rally chanting, "We are Charlie Kirk." Amazing the impact this young man is having. Charlie was so wise beyond his years. I first met him when I hosted a show with a guy named Pete Hegseth, and this young kid named Charlie kept coming on. He was relentlessly optimistic about the future of America. His enthusiasm was infectious. And the kid, he was like 18, 20 years, kept telling me and Pete, who's now the defense secretary, of course, that the youth vote was going to turn to the political right. And Charlie predicted this army of young people would back a political newcomer named Donald J. Trump. And Charlie was right. He was the one who helped President Trump mobilize those young troops into an unbeatable force last November. And now his wife, Erica Kirk, is showing incredible grace and courage in the wake of this unspeakable tragedy. And in her first public comment since his death, she's vowing to carry the torch and bring this movement to a whole new level.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
She's absolutely right. All around the world, like I said, Charlie's no longer just an American icon. People literally all over the world, look at this, rallying in remembrance of him. London today, a patriotic gathering organized originally to battle censorship and illegal immigration in the UK, something Charlie spoke about here and around the world, quickly turned into a tribute. As you see, R.I.P. Charlie, a tribute for the fallen American leader over there across the pond. And get this, all the way in Australia. Hundreds of people attended a candlelight vigil in Sydney's Hyde Park yesterday to mourn Charlie's death. As I said, a turning point, because right now, thousands of new Turning Point USA chapters are popping up around the globe. We'll discuss that in a few moments with Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. Today, President Trump told NBC News he wants to heal the nation after Charlie's death, but he sees the radical left, as he calls it, as a major impediment to achieving that. Here is the Commander-in-Chief earlier this week in the Oval Office on Charlie.
Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith. And we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain.
And there's a lot of pain, but there's also a lot of hope for the future as well. And we're going to cover all of that over the next 2 hours. So first, let's get more on the investigation into the assassin and get a look at the scene tonight in Orem, Utah. Let's go live to our national correspondent, Joe Moeller. He is on the ground in Utah, where he's been for a couple of days, with more details on the probe into the assassination. Joe, good evening.
Hi, good evening. New details coming out today. President Trump and FBI Director Kash Patel telling Newsmax's Rob Schmidt earlier today that they've learned that the partner of the suspect, Tyler Robinson, allegedly is a trans woman, a trans person, transgender individual, I should say. And we also learned that the FBI Director also says that against all recommendations, they still went through releasing that security video and footage earlier this week, and that's actually what led to the father actually noticing it was his son and coming forward and turning his son in. Like you mentioned, we're at the scene where this all happened on Wednesday. This is the Utah Valley University campus. You're taking a live look at the crowd that's continuing to grow here at the memorial. There's been a Patriot ride, people coming through, and I'm going to have our photojournalist zoom in. You've been mentioning this is a turning point. Let's go ahead and zoom into that sign. There's actually somebody came out here with a turning point sign like you had just been mentioning. It's incredible to see the crowd out here. Well, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson is now sitting in the Utah County Jail. He's expected to face felony charges of murder, discharge of a firearm causing bodily harm, and obstruction of justice. The governor has said they will seek the death penalty in the case. He is not a student at the university here. He's from Southwest Utah, several hundred miles away. Investigators say the family told them Robinson recently became more political, and when talking about Charlie Kirk's visit to Orem over dinner, he stated he did not like Kirk and thought Kirk was spreading hate. They also say a roommate shared messages showing Robinson discussing the rifle. Right now, we don't know if that roommate is Robinson's partner or another person. Investigators continue to look into a motive. Bullets in the rifle were found with messages engraved on them. One of those messages reads, "Hey, fascist, catch." Now, joining me right now is David Sanchez. He was actually here on the day of the shooting on Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me again. I've talked to you a couple times this week. Walk us through that day. What was going through your mind when that shot rang out?
Yeah, so initially I thought it was a firecracker. You know, I thought that there was just somebody trying to play a prank, trying to make me scare all the students that were there. I didn't see the actual incident occur, but right as soon as everyone started ducking down and running, that's when I knew that something was not right. And that's when we started running. We ran away from the scene.
And I'm sure you've been paying attention to this. What's going through your mind when you're learning the details of the case and now that there's a suspect in custody?
So after I learned that it was a shot, that somebody had shot him, that I instantly knew that it was politically motivated, just by instinct. You know, that's just what my gut feeling was telling me. And I just knew that it was either politically driven by something with Gaza or something with transgender ideology. I knew it from the beginning. And so it didn't surprise me at all that that was one of the things that he was talking about.
All right, you came out here. I mean, I can't even say, there's still cars coming through with American flags paying tribute to Charlie. And how many would you say? I would say 500 at least, but
at least.
What's going through your mind when you see all of this?
You know, it's just amazing to see the community coming around and really seeing Utah step up to the plate. I think that we really need to see Utah become a hotbed of conservatism.
Thank you. I appreciate you joining me. We are expecting the suspect to be in court on Tuesday. I'll send it back to you.
Bring for us live in Utah. Joe, thank you. Let's welcome in now live retired NYPD detective, our friend, Bo Dietl. He's a member of President Trump's Homeland Security Advisory Council as well. Bo, it's always great to see you. Let's get down to business tonight because we've seen trans shooters in tragedies from Nashville to Minneapolis. In this case, President Trump is telling our own Rob Schmitt that the 22-year-old suspect had a partner he was living with who was a man transitioning to a woman. So it wasn't the shooter himself, but his partner who's trans, apparently. And since Charlie Kirk is a Christian who spoke out on trans issues, what might that tell us about the motive of the shooter?
I mean, that as far as I'm concerned, we now have a direction of a motive with this popping up. We got to remember a lot of these shootings now, and not to knock trans people, but if you remember Nashville, that Catholic school there was shoot up. I think it was Audrey Hale was the woman, man's name to Audrey Hale. But my whole point is that these are motives behind it. And we have to look at this when you do an investigation like this, all this will come into play. And I believe there's text messages about picking up the rifle, where it was hidden. So this case is really developing fast. And the head of the FBI now is a real head of the FBI, not like the idiot we had before him. Kash Patel is right on top of this thing. All these phone records, all the mobile phones. You could actually track them on the mobile phones and all that. And this whole thing is put together really well as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, and Bo, pardon me, it was done quickly as well. To your point about Kash Patel, he posted a short time ago on X, the FBI director, that some law enforcement had advised him to not put out some of those images of the suspect right before he was caught, essentially. But where Kash Patel is saying that it was those very images that got the father of the suspect to say, hey, that's him. So this was a smart move, apparently, by the FBI to put those photos out.
Well, let me tell you something. Again, if it went wrong, if the guy got on a plane and bolted out because he saw his picture, then it would have been a wrong move. It turned out to be a really good move. And as far as I'm concerned, we got this piece of garbage that killed a friend. And I was very honored to be around Charlie a couple of times. And I got affected when I saw that actual footage there when he hit him into the carotid artery. I mean, it was horrible. But again, people say to me, Bo, you're in the security business. Why didn't they have snipers, drones? You got to understand something. He is not an elected official, one. He is not someone who's a candidate, two. And we have to check, was there real active threats? You have to assess the risk vulnerability of who after him. Again, now you could have, when we did the 4th of July at the South Street Seaport, I had snipers on the roof. I requested from Homeland Security. We had anti-drone measures in place. You could do it all, but he's out how many times a year?
He was brave about that. Yeah, he went right into the lion's den and answered those questions, and tragically, it brought an end to his life, but he died doing what he loved. You're right. There's going to be a lot of tough choices ahead about how much money we're going to spend on security, how we balance all of that. Bo Dietl, we appreciate your insight tonight. Thank you, my friend.
And always a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much. And my deepest heart goes out to Erica and the children.
Absolutely. That speaks for all of us. Bo, thank you. Let's keep this rolling because the president today spoke to my Newsmax colleague, Rob Schmitt, who has some breaking news tonight about this FBI investigation of the assassin, the 22-year-old suspect, Tyler Robinson. And Rob joins us live now. Rob, what did you learn from the president? Good to see you.
Hey, Ed. Yeah, we had a golf game this morning, and on the course, we're just talking about everything going on. He talks and he just reveals things sometimes. You're just playing golf, you're out there for a few hours, and he just kind of tells me that the shooter, Charlie shooter, was living with a trans girlfriend, and I just was like, what? I mean, because this whole thing, we were looking at this ideology, and we knew it was Antifa, and we knew what was on the bullets. We knew what the FBI had revealed and stuff. And I think a lot of people were just waiting to see if it had gone down that avenue as well, and if there was some kind of a trans connection, because we've seen so much violence from that kind of flank of the left. And then when he said that, I just was like, ding, ding, ding. It just kind of hit that nerve again.
Absolutely.
And it was interesting. Yeah.
All right. Well, Rob Schmitt, we appreciate the exclusive information you brought us tonight, joining us live by phone. Don't forget, tune in to Rob Schmitt's show Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. He'll have more of his conversation with President Trump and more, the latest on the aftermath of this very tragic assassination of our friend Charlie Kirk. Rob, thank you. Meantime, the left is loving right now to go on social media and falsely claim that Charlie was somehow a fascist. That's a word they keep using, that he wouldn't listen to other viewpoints, when the opposite was true. He was always calling for civility and walked the walk as well. He wasn't just talking the talk. He was known for thoughtful exchanges like this.
Do you believe that being here in America here is a right or a privilege?
Is a right and a privilege.
You have a right to be here?
Yes, I believe anybody has a right to movement to wherever they want.
So you would get rid of all borders?
Yes.
So when you land from an international flight at JFK Airport, no passport checks?
Nope.
Okay.
And joining me now is Republican Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullen. Senator, always good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
It's because they didn't have it together, so we did this.
Senator, we're learning some new information tonight, which is that the memorial service, and that's what they're calling it, not a funeral for Charlie Kirk, will be a week from Sunday, September 21st. President Trump is expected to attend. And get this, it will be at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, where obviously the NFL team plays. It has over 63,000 seats. Doesn't that speak to sort of the massive movement that Charlie helped start, and now that movement seems to only be growing, sir?
It absolutely. I don't know if you saw this, but since Erica spoke last night, which was just moving, I don't know how anybody could have watched that and just not had tears streaming down your face. What a powerful testimony of her husband. But since she spoke, Turning Point USA had 9,000 chapters prior to that. As of right now, they've had 18,000 requests for new chapters around the world, not around the country, around the world. It is Absolutely amazing. What this evil individual tried to do was steal the voice of Charlie Kirk and silence him. And what he did was make a mantra out of him. And now that voice is going to be louder than ever. It is absolutely amazing, the movement that has started. And I'll make a prediction right now, Ed. I don't think that stadium is big enough to hold everybody that's going to want to attend.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's going to be young people from not just around the country, but from around the world lined up in that parking lot outside, like almost like a tailgate party. And I say that because it's going to be a celebration of life, sir. It's going to be coming together. And in fact, the Utah governor, as you know, Spencer Cox, is urging Americans to try to find a way to come together. Let's listen to what he had to say. I want you to react, sir.
With political violence is it metastasizes, because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse. But see, these are choices that we can make.
Senator, I love the goal, as I'm sure you do, but how do you get there when some Democrats are quite literally celebrating Charlie's death? It's just ghastly.
Well, let me just put it this way. You can't argue with crazy and make those individuals irrelevant. What Charlie spoke of was his love for Jesus Christ. If he wants to be remembered for anything, he'll be remembered as a Christian, as a loyal husband, and a father to 2 children to which he loved life itself. And that wasn't hate speech. That wasn't from a point of threatening to anybody. He wanted his life to reflect Christ's life. Now, you've seen the stadiums that have been raising their hands in the air in celebration of Charlie's life.
Yeah.
You've seen people holding prayers, individuals all over campuses, including right here in Oklahoma. The University of Oklahoma last night filled the old Noble Center with 9,000 college students all praying. That's the movement. These individuals that want to speak hatred, these individuals that want to continue to spew divisiveness, they're going to be silenced, because Gen Z has now started changing towards what Charlie Kirk always said could happen, and taking the message to the campuses and speaking directly to the youth. And the youth has woke up now. And so I think those individuals are just completely irrelevant, and we shouldn't give them a time of the day.
I absolutely agree. Very well said. You stay safe, Senator. Our best to you and your family. Thanks for joining us on This Weekend, sir.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Keep it right here. Our special coverage honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk continues with 2 young conservatives who were inspired by Charlie. Newsmax, real news for real people. We like to get a pulse of the people, but there's a twist tonight. These 2 young men were at Utah Valley University when Charlie was killed. How they are coping with going from incredible excitement at this event to witnessing their hero's life cut short. That tough story is next.
Christ is all grace and all truth. And so if I'm contesting in the public arena for truth and it really ticks somebody off, then I'm in no way defying the wants or wishes of Christ or his word. And understand that we as Christians are called to go into the public arena to correct error with truth.
Yep.
So I go to college campuses and there's a lot of error. We're all sinners. We all live in error. The problem with college campuses, though, is that it calls error truth. So the entire institution is absent and outside of and is in contradiction with God's law and God's perfect commands for our life.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. God wants to heal you and make you whole. You only need to seek his guidance and let him in. Psychologist, Navy veteran, and former member of Congress, Dr. Tim Murphy, presents The Christ Cure. Find inspiration, guidance, and techniques to start healing through faith. You need this valuable handbook. Get your free copy now. Call the number on your screen or go online to order.
Tell me, is there some society you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. In the only cases in which the masses have escaped from the kind of grinding poverty you're talking about, the only cases in recorded history are where they have had capitalism and largely free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worst off, it's exactly in the kinds of societies that depart from that. So that the record of history is absolutely crystal clear that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free enterprise system.
If you could help reduce the urge to go to the bathroom due to your aging prostate, if you could improve your energy levels because you're getting a better night's sleep, would you? Of course you would. And now you can, with the help of Prostate Revive, the premium dietary supplement for men whose lives, sleep, and energy levels are affected due to the concerns of an aging prostate. It was specially formulated for men by noted medical doctor, Dr. David Brownstein.
Prostate Revive is really about healthy aging. It contains a plant sterol called beta-sitosterol, combined with 15 other important ingredients. Prostate Revive's exclusive formula helps promote normal prostate function, and that means you can reduce the urge to go and finally get a good night's sleep.
Here's how you can try Prostate Revive risk-free.
Simply call or visit our website now and we'll send every new customer a risk-free 30-day trial of Prostate Revive. You discover the low shipping and handling. This is a $39.95 value, so don't delay. Call or go online today.
Welcome back to our special report tonight, Charlie Kirk, American Hero. The assassination of Charlie was, of course, a senseless crime, and for those who were present at Utah Valley University that day, it was a painful day, and they're going to have to live with this for the rest of their lives. So let's welcome in two young conservatives who experienced the joy of being inspired by Charlie Kirk, but unfortunately also experienced the horror up close, because they attended the event where their hero was assassinated. You can see him right there. Let's welcome him live. Former Utah Valley University student Brandon Rustin and Brigham Young University student Stephen Taft. Gentlemen, I can't imagine what you were dealing with tonight, so we greatly appreciate you sharing your stories. Welcome.
Thank you.
Brandon, it looks like you guys got there early and were close up, had a good spot to watch Charlie do what he really loved, which was debating it out on the issues. And look at the joy on your faces there. I imagine it's a roller coaster of emotions, because 1 minute you're seeing this incredible leader up close doing what he loves so much, and the next minute he's just gone. Brandon, what's been going through your mind, sir?
You know, I've given several interviews and talked to so many people the past 72 hours, and I still don't really know what to think or how to feel about it. That moment was a moment that altered my life and Stephen's life forever, and will haunt us for the rest of our lives, as well as empower us to spread Charlie's message. Primarily about Jesus Christ, and secondarily about freedom and prosperity and flourishing in America. And those two things are synonymous with each other. Charlie inspired each of us so much, and to see his final moment has created a sort of a spiritual connection between us and him in a very bittersweet way. And I'm very grateful to have heard his last words, as well as be there, even though it was a tragedy. It's sweet, I think.
Yeah. You know, you said so much in just a minute. I'm trying to digest it all. I mean, freedom was what was emblazoned on his T-shirt, and I've seen some people say he's now free because he's in the embrace of our Lord. And what you said about the legacy and moving forward. Stephen, are you able to sleep? Are you struggling? Do you find solace, as we just heard from your friend, in Charlie's incredible legacy? I imagine you're going through a range of things. What's it like, Stephen?
Yeah, it's been a rough few days, I won't lie. I've been lucky to be surrounded by my beautiful fiance and my friend Brandon, and a ton of other family that's just been so great in helping me get through this. I mean, the first night I didn't sleep. I think I maybe got an hour and a half to 2 hours of sleep, with what you could imagine is just a replay of what happened that day. You mentioned we were just so excited to see Charlie. We've both watched him on the internet for years and years and years. This was the day we get to see our hero. And I can tell you, it was just exactly what we expected as far as the first part goes. We saw him debate, respectfully find common ground, represent these things like freedom of speech and debate our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, all of these things. But never did I expect to see our hero taken from us.
No.
And the way it was.
Yeah. Well, I love that you both, pardon me, have mentioned his faith and your own faith, which I imagine is going to get you and a lot of people through this, and hope that there's some hope on the other side. Brandon, Stephen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Two very brave young men right there. Coming up, we speak to one of the conservative leader's close friends, a man who gave a toast at Charlie's wedding to the beautiful Erica. And coming up, outraged as the left-wing media keeps on cheering the death of Charlie Kirk and trivializing the assassination. Carrie Lake, a top Trump administration official, is here to call it all out. Plus, we'll talk more about Charlie's faith, that and a whole lot more, as we continue Newsmax's special coverage, Charlie Kirk, American Hero.
He tells it like it is, with decades covering Washington and the really big stories. Ed Henry cuts through the noise and gives you the facts you need to know. Watch Ed on The Briefing tonight on Newsmax 2.
This right here is confidence in a bottle.
Not only does it change you on the outside, but something in the inside, knowing that you're looking better.
It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt in my life.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Well, today we're going to see one for ourselves and let you be the judge. It's called Plexiderm, and lifestyle expert Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and you'll notice the model has bags underneath his eyes and some sagging, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face, and that's how easy it is.
All right, what's the active ingredient?
Okay, so it's silicates that are minerals found in shale rock, and what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes in as little as 10 minutes, no prescriptions, and very little effort. Even watching the video, this is a real, it's a model, but it's a real guy with real bags underneath his eyes.
My real true opinion is holy words I can't say on camera. This is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I could feel it just lifting my skin. It was amazing. It feels good. Feels great. Looks even better.
And I did this to my father. We were at home. So we applied it to his under eye bags. And let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view. And now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. He calls me every single month saying, "Hey, Annette, I'm out of Plexiderm, please send me more." And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles. The way you want to do it is you want to have a clean, dry face. You use a small amount because it's so powerful. You have high school reunions, you have events you want to go to, you want to look years younger, this is it.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work for yourself after your first application. Call the number on your screen.
Call 800-531-2824. When Rosa Parks stepped on that Montgomery, Alabama bus on December 1st, 1955, she didn't set out to make history. She just wanted to get home. Montgomery's segregated buses had divided seating, white passengers in front, colored passengers in the back. When the bus driver needed more seats for his white passengers, he ordered her and 3 others to vacate their seats. The others complied and moved. But Rosa quietly refused and was quickly arrested. Working alongside Dr. Martin Luther King, Rosa's arrest sparked a highly effective citywide protest with African Americans boycotting city buses. Rosa's protest and resulting boycott didn't end segregation, but it sparked a movement that ended the racial system, paving the way for a more equal society. You're watching An American Moment.
Hi, folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
Welcome back to our special report. Charlie Kirk, American hero. While, of course, there has been a wonderful outpouring of support for Charlie and his family since the assassination, there also have been some low points, some shocking celebrations from some people on the left, efforts to demonize Charlie. Take a listen to Democrat Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
You know, Charlie was someone who once said, guns save lives after a school shooting. Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Complete rewriting of history.
Yeah, there is nothing more effed up, than to completely pretend that his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so.
All right, let's welcome in former Democrat presidential candidate and former Minnesota Congressman Dean Phillips. Congressman, welcome in tonight.
Thank you, Ed. Good to be with you, sadly, under these circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always known you to be a bit more fair and forthright than some of your colleagues on the left, like Ilhan Omar. So what do you make of what she was saying? I mean, first of all, much of what she said about Charlie's comments on race are wrong or taken out of context. She's laughing throughout this interview. What happened to just basic respect for the dead?
Well, Ed, let me start by saying, unfortunately, it's quite a low bar in the United States Congress when it comes to decency and respect and compassion for people who feel differently than you. And I've been trying to fight against this, Ed, since I joined Congress 7 years ago. The issue is not unique to one party. And this is just a time for America to reflect on what brought us to this point. It's not about politics. And the truth of the matter is, I'm telling my Democratic colleagues that the answer, the solution, if you will, to this madness is more of what Charlie Kirk believed in, his mission, which was to debate, to not hide in the shadows and sit behind a computer screen or a phone, but to actually get out there and make your case. Yeah. And if you want to challenge them. So that, to me, is what saddens me about the response from the far left, at least, is the answer is actually what they're demeaning right now, and that troubles me deeply.
Yeah, in the last 30 seconds we have with you, because we're trying to pack a lot in here. But when, a lot of Democrats also sort of saying, well, both sides do this. But, it was a Bernie Sanders supporter who shot up Steve Scalise and the Republican members when you were in Congress. This awful situation. What happened in Minnesota with the Democrats who were targeted? The shooter there was someone who had a no kings literature in the car. So isn't there a problem with left-wing violence right now?
Well, yeah, but Ed, I have to be forthright with you. What you just said about the Minnesota shootings, Vance Bolter voted in the Republican election that year. He's an evangelical Christian who had that literature in his car. That was not an indication of his politics. And I think what you just shared, unfortunately, the truth is it is on both sides. I'm not going to get into a debate on who's worse than the other. The fact of the matter is it's madness, and anybody who uses weapons instead of words to litigate policy in America is wrong. But I do want to encourage people watching right now on the right to recognize that there's a lot of misleading information about some of the attacks against Democrats. It's just the truth. And I'm objective, I'm forthright, I'm deeply deeply saddened by the loss of Charlie, for his family, for our country. And I learned from him. I learned important conservative values from Charlie Kirk. And we need more people, young people on both sides, to use reason and encourage breaking bread, respecting one another. And that is patriotism. That's the truth.
There you go. All right. Well, we hope we see a lot more of that in days ahead. As I said, you're always forthright. We appreciate your honesty tonight.
Thank you, Ed. And my condolences to everybody watching who is deeply traumatized.
There you go. We look forward to talking to you in the days ahead. Dean Phillips, thank you.
My husband laid down his life for me, for our nation, for our children. He showed the ultimate and true covenantal love.
Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, right there, delivering a sorrowful yet strong and uplifting message following her husband's death. She vowed to continue his cause and keep that mission alive. So let's bring in now someone who wants to help keep the flame burning. He's a board member at Turning Point USA, former congressman from the great state of Ohio, Bob McEwen. Congressman, always good to see you, not under these circumstances, but welcome, sir.
Thank you, Ed.
You were close to Charlie.
You know,
yeah, go ahead, because you gave a toast at his wedding, by the way. So I wonder, what did you say? And talk about this couple.
Well, that they were born for this time. I made reference to Churchill when he said he felt his entire life had been but a preparation for this moment. And he admired Churchill as well. And the thing is that he spoke truth. Why did this young man have such an impact on the world? You know, the left has to shout people down. They have to censor books. They have to do book burnings. And when they lose, the second they lose the debate, then they start calling people Nazis and fascists and all the things that, because their ideas don't last. And you see that the hurt that America feels, they're not burning buildings and not burning cars, because we know that we have truth. And that's what Charlie spoke about, and that's why people were so drawn to him. His winsomeness, his commitment to Christ, and that he radiated that as to what America stands for, righteousness in the world.
So what is the legacy of Charlie Kirk then, and what is the future for Turning Point USA? Because we talked to Senator Mark Wayne Mullen earlier, and he said there's literally thousands of people calling into Turning Point USA, not just with money, but saying, I want to start a new chapter of Turning Point USA and convert more young people to the cause, not just in America, but around the world, sir.
And Ed, just think, he's just barely now turned into his 30s. So a young man in his 20s, that prime ministers around the world are damaged. Perhaps 1 million people today in Britain in demonstrations chanting Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk. So I think that his message was, prove me wrong. That was and I think what we're going to see now is prove us wrong. I think we're going to experience young people that recognize that truth overcomes error. They don't need to, they can be proud of their country, and they can be proud of the fact that they are believers, and they don't have to hesitate regardless of the attacks and efforts to censor them on any college campus or any place else on the globe.
Absolutely. Well, we're proud to talk to you and know you and have you on tonight to reflect on your close friend and friends, really, because you were close to the couple, Erica, as well. Congressman Bob McEwen, thank you, sir.
Appreciate you, Ed. Thank you.
All right, stay with us as we remember an American hero, Charlie Kirk, his impact on the youth vote and helping President Trump return to power. And later, we hear directly from some of the young lives he's impacted. People who are now working with Turning Point USA. And we'll talk to the great Carrie Lake, who worked very closely with Charlie Kirk. That is coming up.
Hi, folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
At 9:47 a.m. on the 20th of February, 1962, Lieutenant Colonel John Glenn Jr. of New Concord, Ohio, found himself sitting on top of an Atlas 6 rocket filled with 600,000 pounds of fuel. At liftoff, 360,000 pounds of thrust hurled the massive rocket and its occupant into space and America's history books. John Glenn became the fourth human being to enter space and the first American to orbit the Earth. For his remarkable heroism, President Kennedy awarded Colonel Glenn NASA's Distinguished Service Medal.
As our knowledge of this universe in which we live increases, may God grant us the wisdom and guidance to use it wisely. Thank you, Colonel.
Glenn went on to become the United States Senator from Ohio, and in 1984 ran for the Democratic presidential nomination, but lost to Walter Mondale.
I was exhausted all the time, and I just didn't feel like myself. And then came the weight gain. I found out I was like millions of Americans whose thyroid gland wasn't functioning like it was supposed to. And that's why I started taking Actilin, a premium nutritional supplement. Actilin was created by renowned physician Dr. David Brownstein, formulated with 17 powerful ingredients to specifically support your thyroid function, adrenal health, and metabolism. And now, you can get a free bottle of Actilin with our special offer. Just pay a small shipping and handling charge. Plus, receive Dr. Brownstein's free special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Thyroid. If you're experiencing loss of energy, cold hands and feet, dry skin, weight gain, or joint pain, Actilin may be right for you. Don't wait. Act now. Get your free trial bottle of Actilin, valued at $39.95.
Have you been in a motor vehicle accident that wasn't your fault? Then you may need legal representation. And if you call the number on your screen now, you can be connected to an attorney who can tell you just how much your case could be worth for free. And for a limited time, if you call now, you can get this elegant, luxurious gold watch with the money from your own case. To be clear, not for me. This is my watch. I own it, and I like it a lot. You can't have it. But if you call and win your case and the money is right, you can buy one of these watches for yourself, or any of these watches, or a different watch I've never even seen before, or no watch. The money is yours to do whatever it is you want. Just call the number on your screen now to find out how much your case could be worth for free.
To get a windfall, you first need to call. Call your favorite attorney now.
Call 800-487-0943.
And you can't have my tie either.
I'm Michael Savage, and I was conservative before conservative was cool. You know, preserving Western civilization requires three things: borders, language, culture. You want to get me started today? I'll get started. Watch Michael Savage and the Savage Nation every Sunday night.
Welcome back to our special report. Charlie Kirk, American hero. Since his passing, the mainstream media's coverage has been embarrassing. This week, MSNBC contributor Matthew Dowd making controversial comments, as you know, about Kirk on air, costing him his job. Take a listen.
We don't know any of the full details of this. We don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. But following up on what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups.
That wasn't even the worst thing said this week. So let's welcome in now our friend, the senior advisor at the U.S. Agency for Global Media, Carrie Lake, who was very close to Charlie out there in Arizona. Carrie, first of all, welcome, and we're so sorry for your loss.
It's just such a huge loss for our world, our country, and we're devastated. It's a national tragedy, and I keep thinking that every day it might get a little easier, and I'm just still in this funk of coming to the grips that our brother Charlie isn't here anymore. And
Absolutely.
I watched Erica last night, and I just feel the Holy Spirit working through this amazing mother. And I know that the Turning Point legacy will continue on in the strongest way possible with her at the helm, and I'm very happy to see that.
Absolutely. So we could talk all night about what the media gets wrong about Charlie. I guess I'd rather focus in the couple minutes we have on what you saw that was right in Charlie. How do you remember him? What do you want people to know about Charlie?
Oh, there's so much right about him, and the media got everything wrong. They just want to divide us, and that's why I left the media. I mean, I left the media. I walked away from a very lucrative job because I didn't want to be part of pushing lies, and that's actually when I ended up meeting Charlie. I met him when Turning Point invited me to come and speak because they were so impressed that I walked away from a lucrative career because I was about the truth and I didn't want to be part of the lies of the media. And that was my first introduction into Turning Point and Charlie. He introduced me to so many of his wonderful events where I had the opportunity to talk about what I believed in, and when I ran for office, to put out my platform, and it was just wonderful. But we became friends. I'll never forget the day I found out that President Trump was giving me his endorsement in my governor's race. Charlie and Erica were at my dinner table that night. I'd invited them over for dinner, and I was so excited I could barely contain myself, and he said, okay, slow down. We've already celebrated. Now let's get the plan. Time to get the plan going. His mind worked in such an incredible way, Ed. He was always thinking of the next steps. Even in this last election, when J.D. Vance was chosen as VP and he and I were backstage, you know, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say when I go take the stage and the microphone. He is talking about the next election, 2026 already. That's how he thought. But he also always was thinking about his faith. And I know when he was helping to work on the transition team to help get President Trump's administration geared up for this administration, he would routinely ask people, do you know that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior? Out of the blue, he was always trying to save souls. And we're just going to miss him terribly. I don't know how we get through. I pray for Erica and those children, but after seeing her last night and that strength that she showed, man almighty, I am right there with her. I'm behind her. I'm beside her. And I know there are tens of millions just like me ready to stand up for the truth and to push back against this violence.
There you go. I think you're absolutely right. Carrie Lake, so well said. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Ed.
Charlie's message, as you just heard from Carrie, resonated with a lot of people, but especially with young voters. And while the president gets credit, of course, for the shift, he's pointing to Charlie as the key catalyst behind it. He's said that many times. Take a look at this. In 2023, young men leaned Democrat by 26 points. In 2025, after the last election, they favor Republicans by 18. Yes, that's a 44-point conservative swing for young voters in just 2 years. Pretty remarkable. So let's bring in a friend, pollster for McLaughlin & Associates, longtime pollster for the president as well, Jim McLaughlin. And Jim, the president's the one who gets the ultimate credit. He's on the ballot. But Charlie Kirk was the one, before anyone else believed it, that said, look, we can get young people shifting over. What was the magic behind that, do you think?
You know, and look, the real credit goes to, quite honestly, Donald Trump's record and Donald Trump being able to connect with these folks. But what Charlie did was so important because there were a lot of these, I'd call them, for lack of a better term, old-time conservatives in the Republican Party who said, okay, you know, these young people, they don't vote. We don't want to waste our time there. But Charlie, that was his vision. That was his plan. And I remember the first time I met him down in Philadelphia, he came up and introduced himself to me. And he was thanking me for all the work I did about a decade ago for President Trump. And he was literally the foot soldier. He was the leader. He was the inspiration for these young people. And he went out there, he organized, he registered them. But I think the most important thing, you know, that Donald Trump did and that Charlie Kirk did was they gave young people hope. They gave them hope in the future, because they saw how bad things were under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and they saw what they could be with President Trump. And now we're seeing it with the successes in his agenda. But there's no question Charlie was so important to that effort.
Yeah, in the last 30 seconds we have with you, what about this incredible woman, Erica Kirk, who we saw last night, carrying this on for young people?
Yep. And look, and I think she said it best. The evil person that assassinated Charlie thought they were going to silence him. But if anything, what this is going to do, it's going to amplify Charlie's message, Charlie's voice even more. And I'm just hearing from people across the country, especially from young people, they are galvanized because they know what Charlie was giving them. He was giving them a vision for the future. He was telling people, get married, have lots of kids, go to church, believe in God. And that's a hugely important message. And I think his legacy is going to live on for a generation.
And certainly, maybe even more. Jim McLaughlin, we always appreciate your insight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, so let's talk to some of the young conservatives who were inspired by Charlie and find out what it was. What was the spark? Let's bring in the host of the Pinpoint podcast, former president of Turning Point USA at the great Auburn University, Jaden Hurd. along with the former Turning Point USA ambassador and analyst. Restoration of America is where she was, and is Grace Riley. Welcome to you both. Ladies first. Grace, what was the spark? What was so inspiring about this guy? What got you involved?
Yeah, you know, it's hard to even put into words. I met Charlie when I was 15 years old, and he inspired me to decide to fully commit to Christian conservative values and standing for them in any way that I could. And I went home from meeting him, started a high school chapter, and have been speaking out ever since. I quite literally would not be talking to you on the news today if Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA hadn't believed in that patriotic, hopeful high school student back all of those years ago. It's just incredible. And I tell this story not because it has anything to do with me, but because it's the story of countless Americans, young people who have gotten involved in politics, or young people who he just inspired to have that conversation with a friend that they maybe were scared to because of the division in our country. He impacted so many millions of people, and the legacy, you know, there's proof we can see. Turning Point reported that after Erica Kirk's heartfelt, powerful speech last night, they got requests for 18,000 new chapters. How incredible is that? And I want to say, too, above all, his true legacy was bringing people to Jesus Christ, who conquered death so that we could live as Charlie does with him now in heaven for eternity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people keep bringing up his faith, and rightly so. Jaden, I got to be frank with you. What are you doing here? Because I just listened to Ilhan Omar a moment ago, and she told me that people of color should not trust Charlie Kirk, that basically he was racist and that he minimized the experience of black people and others. How do you respond?
That's very interesting to me, because I'm pretty sure that he's the founder of, or co-founder of, Blexit, along with Candace Owens. So this guy actually did actual work in the black community. But the reason I'm here is because 5 years ago, I was pretty much raised in a Democratic household, and it was his videos and videos like his that brought me over to the truth. And through that, I actually found Jesus Christ as I got into the movement. And ultimately, I surrounded myself with people who love Jesus. Now, Charlie's mission wasn't just merely to get people to conservatism. As Erica Kirk pointed out last night on her amazing speech, as she was mourning her loss of her husband, one of his favorite Bible verses was Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25, where it says, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loves the church." But the completion of that verse, which I wish he finished, but it's so good and it wraps up in a bow perfectly. It says that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of the water by the word, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without wrinkle and blemish. And ultimately, I believe that if we all humble ourselves, repent of our sins, and put our trust in Jesus and live holy lives obedient to the Lord, ultimately that is the best way to honor Charlie Kirk's legacy.
Yep. Well, I tell you what, it's a sad occasion and we're still in mourning, but I think the future's bright. And part of the reason we're hopeful is because of young people like yourselves. That was very inspiring what you both had to say. Thanks for being here, Jaden and Grace.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. We certainly appreciate you. Just before we pass, Charlie Kirk actually authored a final book forward for a friend. It was a new book that was set to be released next week by Charlie's friend and a longtime pastor, Lucas Miles. The book is called Pagan Threat. We've had it on the screen, Confronting America's Godless Uprising. In his final words, Charlie makes some very powerful statements, including his claim that everyone in America faced grave danger, that our society had lost its respect for life due to leftist and woke ideologies taking over America. You heard him talk about that many times. He urged Americans in the forward to get this book and share the message of Pagan Threat. It's available right now on Amazon, but you can get it with Charlie's forward as a free offer from Newsmax, as you see. You can check out the free offer online. As Charlie said, America is simply too great to lose. And there it is, paganthreat.com. We'll be right back with more of our special.
Hi, folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
Tell me, is there some society you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. In the only cases in which the masses have escaped from the kind of grinding poverty you're talking about, the only cases in recorded history are where they have had capitalism and largely free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worst off, it's exactly in the kinds of societies that depart from that. So that the record of history is absolutely crystal clear that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free enterprise system.
If you've been in an accident that wasn't your fault, your favorite attorney has a message for you. Collision, calamity, catastrophe. If you want money, you need an attorney. You need a bulldog. That's why you need to call the number on your screen now. You'll be connected to a legal expert. You got questions, they got answers. These bulldogs will make sure people pay. And if you don't get money, I don't get money. Pick up that phone and make that call now to see what your case could be worth.
800-511-8575.
Welcome back to our special report tonight. Charlie Kirk, American hero. Charlie left a tremendous impact, as you've been hearing, not just in America, but all around the world. Thousands gathering in the streets of London today to remember Charlie's life. Some people said it reached about 1 million people, all told. And the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, very close to President Trump, had this to say about Charlie's life and legacy on X. I am shocked by the news of the killing of Charlie, a young and valued and followed Republican activist. An atrocious murder, a deep wound for democracy and for those who believe in freedom. My condolences to his family, to his loved ones, and to the American conservative community. On Thursday, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appeared on Newsmax. Take a listen.
The circumstances are tragic. And as you can imagine, Greta, I want to say a farewell to a great human being, a great friend of Israel, a great champion of Judeo-Christian civilization, and a champion of free speech, free debate, freedom. Charlie Kirk his loss is terrible. And we grieve for him, for his wife, Erica, for his 2 beautiful children, and for the many, many, many people who will not hear his voice. His legacy, yes, but his unique voice, that's gone.
Welcome back, Patriots, to our special report tonight. Charlie Kirk, American hero. We honor the incredible life and legacy of the young conservative leader, Charlie Kirk, following his shocking assassination this week. Charlie was a devout Christian who put faith at the forefront of his life. The Reverend Franklin Graham, one of the nation's most prominent Christian voices, praised Charlie this week.
Charlie was a very devout Christian, and he believed the Word of God. He believed it cover to cover. And I'm just proud of how he lived his life. And he said, I'm nothing without Jesus. And that's the way he lived his life. And he wanted to be remembered, Greta. Someone asked him, how do you want to be remembered when you die? I want to be remembered for my courage and standing for my faith. I mean, Greta, this guy was incredible. And he just posted just this week, Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and life. No man comes to the Father but by me. Well, he posted, tell somebody about Jesus this week. And I hope everybody who's watching, Greta, will tell somebody about Jesus.
A lot of people are telling about Jesus and are talking about Charlie Kirk right now, all around the world. Turning Point USA has now announced a celebration of life for Charlie, set for September 21st, a week from Sunday, at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. That's where their NFL team plays, the Arizona Cardinals. Over 60,000 seats, so a lot of people will be turning out, including the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Newsmax, of course, will be all over that celebration of life and our coverage all week long, this week leading up to that dramatic celebration of life. Kirk had strong personal and professional ties to the great state of Arizona. So let's head out there live to Dream City Church in Phoenix, where Kirk worshiped, and that's where we find our senior correspondent, John Huddy. Good evening, John.
Yeah, Ed, good evening to you. Actually, we're outside the Turning Point USA campus here in Phoenix, Arizona, and this is where people have been showing up all day, at some points in very large crowds of people coming here to pay their respects and to remember Charlie Kirk, laying flowers and taking to a microphone. Somebody set up a microphone with speakers, so what we've heard is people going up, giving testimony, talking about, some praying, some singing songs, others talking about the impact and the influence that Charlie Kirk had on their lives, that Erica Kirk has had on their lives, and the legacy that he is leaving, and of course then the fallout, obviously, from his death. One of the things we've heard a lot is about that outpouring of love and faith as well. And on that note, Turning Point USA posted a message this evening on X, writing that we are deeply moved by the outpouring of love and support for the Kirk family and for our organization during this incredibly difficult time. We are especially grateful to those who have reached out asking how they can help, and then they list a number of ways that people can get involved, people can donate, people can support Turning Point and get involved with the organization. That said, we've talked to numerous people throughout the day, people from all over, not only from Arizona, but drove here, one group of men from 17 hours from Texas, another group of more than 200 bikers that came here to talk about the impact that Charlie Kirk heard. Some very important, very powerful, very emotional messages. And here's what some folks had to tell us. Listen here.
He's my brother in God, and so I feel like I lost my family member. And he's a voice of a lot of people, and I know a lot of people say we're now Charlie Kirk, and I hope a lot of us learn to speak out loud in front of people and speak our truth and be able to do this without any kind of violence and just have a conversation with people. I don't know if I could ever fill those kind of shoes, so I'm not going to say like I'm Charlie Kirk, but I will continue to be inspired by him every day, I can tell you that.
I started following Charlie a few years ago. And I love the guy. And I admired him so much because he could do things I can't do. I can't take on a discussion with people that are so full of hate and treat them so friendly and loving as he was. So I have to aspire to be that.
I sat in silence last night just watching it, amazed by that woman's grace, her strength. And you could feel the anger, you could feel the hurt, you could feel the devastation. She's human at the end of the day. She feels every single bit of this, but her faith in God is astounding. And that's what we need to hold fast to during this time.
Yeah, and the second gentleman that you heard from there had a Wheeling High School banner, a flag from Wheeling High School in outside of Chicago. He graduated class of 1969. That's where Charlie Kirk went to high school. And as you recall, when I was in Chicago initially to cover the immigration enforcement effort, then I pivoted off of that to cover Charlie Kirk's assassination, his murder. We went out to the high school. We talked to somebody who's known him for 14 years. And that, at the high school, that's where he really developed not only his Christian ideals and a strong sense of faith, but also the political activism that then led him in 2012 to forming Turning Point USA. So a very emotional day, very powerful day as this legacy continues and as people continue to come out here to remember the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk.
Absolutely. Our senior correspondent, John Huddy, doing an outstanding job. Some really emotional interviews there. John, thank you. Charlie's passing was, of course, a personal loss as well for President Trump. Here's what he had to say this week in the Oval Office.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory, may God watch over his family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
All right, joining me now live is someone very familiar with that Oval Office, the former White House Chief of Staff, our friend Mark Meadows. Mark, thanks for making some time tonight. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Ed. It's great to be with you. And I want to thank you and Newsmax for doing this tribute to Charlie. Candidly, he probably would be the one that would say, oh, no, there are much more important things for you to be talking about. But as you and I both know, really, Charlie was more about this country. And quite frankly, the words that we heard from his wife in that powerful address was just not only moving, but it was inspiring for that next generation to continue to go on. Ed, you know, when we look at this, I knew Charlie personally, and so it is really, really hard when you lose a friend so unexpectedly. But the other part of that is here in 31 years of his life, he really just got engaged in the last decade, a little over a decade ago, and to hear people from the Oval Office to the Knesset in Israel, all on Capitol Hill. I mean, the impact should be inspiring to those that are watching. If you think that you can't step up and speak out on what is right, Charlie Kirk's voice encouraged you to do so. Yeah. He was not only encouraging to me, but so many members on Capitol Hill are moved in a way that I have not seen in well over a decade.
Well, when you mentioned Capitol Hill, I'm old enough to remember when you were just a up-and-coming Republican member from the great state of North Carolina. And, you know, what's interesting is that you always talked about the House Freedom Caucus that you led. And Charlie was like one of these foot soldiers before Donald Trump was even elected. Like, talk about what it was like to be working shoulder to shoulder with this guy before he was famous.
Listen, Charlie was willing to speak truth back then, and you're right. Before President Trump, his embrace of President Trump was really more about embracing that forgotten man and woman that Charlie had espoused, that we in the Freedom Caucus were fighting for. But there were very few people, as you know, Ed. You covered Capitol Hill probably more than most people that have a microphone today. We were an acquired taste, the Freedom Caucus. us on Capitol Hill, even by our own party. And yet here was Charlie Kirk willing to come alongside. It came into a number of hearings when we were doing oversight hearings, and taking copious notes, actually being not only familiar with the subject, but being an expert on the subjects. And so, there will be a lot of things spread around about Charlie Kirk in very flattering and certainly very appropriate ways. But for many of us who knew Charlie, it was the work that he put on behind the scenes, the willingness to speak truth to power. And it was never about Charlie. It was always about our country or about others. And so that's the loss that we have today, but it's also the inspiration that will make his voice, as President Trump was saying, louder and stronger than it's ever been.
Yeah, and that's why the president now is planning to posthumously give him the Medal of Freedom, which is our highest civilian honor, and quite an honor and very well deserved. Mark Meadows, we appreciate your time tonight. Thank you, sir.
Great to be with you, Ed. Take care. God bless.
It was good to have you. God bless. Charlie, as you just heard, was incredibly close to the Trump family, especially Donald Trump Jr. He was almost like a personal assistant to him in the 2016 campaign, when Charlie was up and coming. Eric Trump was close to him as well. They both shared their thoughts right here on Newsmax. Take a listen.
I think it was a terrible day for our country where this stuff has been so normalized. I mean, I can't believe I've had to have that conversation with my kids now 3 times, because the 2 attempts on my father's life and this successful attempt on Charlie's, and explaining that to them. People, they've been around for most of their lives. I've known Charlie since 2015 when I met him on the campaign trail, and he was a young guy, and my friends convinced me to take a meeting. And once I found out he was basically 20 years old at the time, I said, guys, we don't need to do this. We have enough people that don't know what's going on in politics. This is so new to us. I don't need another one. And in 5 minutes, I listened to him, and he was as effective then as he was today in getting his message out and understanding. I just said, hey, man, you're on the road with me. And we spent, the next 6 months of the 16 campaign together daily, have spoken daily for the last decade. I've watched him grow the Turning Point movement and the young conservative movement like literally no one else could have possibly even imagined, let alone actually succeeded over the last decade. He was truly an incredible guy.
Yeah, I remember just hearing that in 2016 he was getting coffee and carrying bags. And in 2024, in January, you both came on after you flew back from Greenland together before your father took the oath of office. It was a real friendship. Do you know what his crime was? Why did they hate Charlie so much?
They hated Charlie because he was effective. The irony of the left, they always want to talk about tolerance, but they're the most ill-tolerant people in the world. He actually gave some of the most ardent leftists in America a platform every day on a college campus. He'd have civil discourse. So he would let them speak their minds. And then when people heard both sides, they realized not only were the left's ideas bad, they were outright ridiculous. They were asinine. That's why he was able to shift that youth vote so significantly, a 40-point swing in, since 16, where people just got it because he taught them to think for themselves, to speak for themselves. When we were on college campuses, since back in the day, I was like, wait a minute, we don't go to college campuses. Like, the conservatives don't belong there. We'll get thrown off campus. He goes, no, we have to be there. We have to precisely be there because we can't just scream our ideas in an echo chamber of people who already believe what we believe. We have to get out there. So this proves, this terrible and tragic event proves that it's not in a debate of ideas any longer. The left lost that debate a long time ago. So they resort to violence. They tried doing it with my father, and the people who are the most effective messengers are the ones that they go after, and very violently.
To say deja vu would be an understatement. I mean, I had my kids on my lap when I was watching Butler when I saw, 15 agents hop on my father and he goes down, right? And my father was wearing a dark blue suit. I didn't know if he got hit in the abdomen, the chest. We had no idea what happened to him. I mean, my heart was in my feet. My heart was on the floor.
Right.
My kids watched it live on TV. They were 4 and 6 at the time. There's no question. It was absolutely a flashback for myself. It was a flashback for Laura. I mean, Laura took it pretty hard yesterday. I mean, everybody took it hard yesterday. I mean, the whole country took it hard yesterday. But, yeah, there's no question. I mean, that was absolutely a flashback to that moment. And, you know, hey, this isn't a unique scenario anymore. Like, they tried this at a golf course. The guy's on trial in Florida right now. The guy was caught in a bush with an AK-47. They tried this in Butler. They succeeded yesterday. It's tragic that our country has come to this, and it's even more tragic that it's being celebrated by so many on the left. It's truly sick. These are disgusting, deranged people. And truly, I don't think the country will stand for it, because 99.999% of the country are on the side of good, righteousness, God.
Yes.
You know, people don't want evil to, you know, evil has never prevailed in the United States of America. It's not going to prevail here.
The 47th President of the United States of America.
And, you know, I wouldn't say Fox has been exactly perfect. Fox has been a big difference of Fox between now and what it was 4 years ago, as you know. But we have others that come along, and they're doing well, and Newsmax has been really good, and, you know, others are coming along, and people are seeing that they're watching these conservative networks.
President Trump is right. That's why millions of Americans are tuning into Newsmax for the real news they can trust.
Tell me, is there some society you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. In the only cases in which the masses have escaped from the kind of grinding poverty you're talking about, the only cases in recorded history are where they have had capitalism and largely free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worst off, it's exactly in the kinds of societies that depart from that. So that the record of history is absolutely crystal clear that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free enterprise system.
It took 34 years to build, but on August 15th, 1914, the Panama Canal was officially opened for business and was quickly crowned one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. President Theodore Roosevelt believed the completion of the canal was essential to American security and prosperity, so he negotiated with the French to purchase the canal's properties and dredging equipment. But when negotiations with Colombia over a canal treaty broke down, Roosevelt backed a local bloodless revolution that lasted only a few hours. And on November 3rd, 1903, the nation of Panama was born. With the opening of the Panama Canal, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans were joined, reducing a ship's journey from New York to San Francisco by 9,000 miles. Roosevelt's vision made the canal a reality, and the feat helped make America a world power. You're watching An American Moment.
Welcome back to our special report here at Newsmax. Charlie Kirk, American Hero. Today we learned a Michigan branch of Office Depot is facing big backlash after an employee refused to print posters for a vigil honoring, yes, Charlie Kirk. The incident sparking outrages and calls for a nationwide boycott as well. Now the company is scrambling to apologize. Joining me now to discuss, political commentator Olivia Krolczyk, host of the Hannah Faulkner Show, our friend Hannah Faulkner, and Turning Point USA contributor Morgan McMichael. Great to have you all on, ladies. I want to start with you first, Olivia. You've been very aggressive in calling out some of these companies, some of these left-wing influencers and others have been online saying all kinds of crazy things, celebrating Charlie's death and the rest. What's most shocked you about all of that?
It's no shock that the left is mad that we are playing by their game. They created cancel culture, and we are now playing by their rules, and they can't stand it. In reality, it's just consequence culture. They're finally learning consequences to their actions. We're holding them accountable because complacency is what led us to the last week. What we saw to that poor girl on the bus, what we saw happen to Charlie Kirk, and so many other unfortunate situations. So they are seeing the consequences of their actions.
Absolutely. Hannah, you've got the War Secretary, Pete Hegseth, ordering Pentagon staff to knock it off. Some of the folks even at the Pentagon, some in uniform, some civilian, have been saying ridiculous, outrageous, disgusting things about Charlie's death. Then I see that a couple of American Airlines pilots, I think, got into trouble. The Transportation Secretary is now speaking out, saying American Airlines better get that in check. Hannah, what in the world's going on?
Yeah, well, first I just want to say it's such an honor to be on a panel with Morgan McMichael, who's a TVUSA contributor, Olivia Kulchak. I've known both of these women since I first got involved in Turning Point USA, which really was the reason why, it's the reason why I'm on your show tonight. So it's just such an honor, and it's very humbling to be on the show with both of these special ladies. But it's no coincidence that we are seeing these things in our country. It's no coincidence that Charlie Kirk, a martyr for Christ, an American hero, as you have titled this show tonight, this tribute to Charlie, it's no coincidence that this stuff has happened when Christians, as Olivia was just alluding to, when conservatives have been silent. I mean, the amount of pastors, the amount of evangelical leaders who have stayed silent on Charlie Kirk's assassination on Wednesday afternoon, it's heartbreaking, it's disheartening, but it's also encouraging to see the amount of young people that are pushing back, that are going to churches, that are speaking up about this and realizing that this is an absolute spiritual warfare. It's demonic what's happening.
Absolutely. Morgan, I remember meeting you, I believe, about 3 years ago at a Turning Point USA event in West Palm Beach, and you were one of the inspiring young women, as was just mentioned by Hannah. What is it about all of these young women who are inspired by this man and this woman, Erica Kirk, that we've now been introduced to, who is so strong? You know, a widow now, a mom who's ready to take this on.
You want to know what inspires me the most about Charlie is he was the most God-fearing man that I have ever personally known. And Erica, the same, as a God-fearing woman, a lovely, wonderful wife. She loves Jesus Christ more than anything in this world, and Charlie. And that is something that they have instilled and been an example of what biblical marriage and what that leadership looks like. And that is one of Charlie's last dying words, was spreading the gospel and speaking the truth. And he really was a beacon of hope, not just for conservative values, but bringing and restoring biblical values within our generation and giving us hope. And one of my favorite things that Charlie ever said was that when people stop talking, that's where the violence begins. And it angers me that Charlie died speaking the truth and speaking his mind. And now more than ever, it is dire that we do not stop talking. Because if we stop talking, that's where everything ends. You know what? You know, they can assassinate the messenger all they want, but they can't kill the message, especially if the message is living and breathing in us every single day. And I think that, you know, his message has just been so empowering, not just young men in this world, but young women especially.
Absolutely. I can see in the smiles on your faces, even in a mournful time, that you seem hopeful. And I think we should all be hopeful about the future. Not just of the conservative movement, but of America, frankly, because you're really inspiring young leaders. Ladies, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you so much.
All right, coming up, federal authorities move quickly to track down the suspected killer of Charlie Kirk. The assassin now in custody in Utah, going to have his first court hearing on Tuesday. Our crime correspondent, Jason Matera, takes us inside the intense manhunt. A full timeline right after this.
Nothing is off limits to David Harris Jr., and there's no apologies because he's armed with common sense, real faith, and the truth. Don't miss him on The Pulse tonight.
career spanned 60 years and 100 films. But the role for which he's most remembered is that of Moses in Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments, one of the greatest box office successes in Hollywood history. But it was his starring in Ben-Hur that won him his one and only Oscar. He was born John Charles Carter on October 4th, 1923. But after his mother remarried, he adopted his grandmother's maiden name, Charlton, and his family's new name, Heston. Heston always considered himself a spiritual man with a love of Christian history, two factors that undoubtedly influenced his screen performances.
For this you shall drink bitter waters.
In 1944, he joined the Air Force, and while serving as a radio operator and aerial gunner, rose to the rank of Staff Sergeant. That same year, he married Lydia Marie Clark, a union that would last for over 64 years. Heston was also a political activist. In his younger years, he was a Democrat, a vocal supporter of liberal politics, and marched with Dr. Martin Luther King and was a strong proponent of civil rights. The popular Heston would become president of the Screen Actors Guild. As he grew older, his politics changed, and he embraced conservative freedoms and causes, leading him to eventually be elected president of the NRA and making this famous declaration.
From my cold, dead hands.
In August of 2002, the Oscar-winning actor announced he was suffering from Alzheimer's disease.
Well, it's been quite a ride.
6 years later, on April 5th, 2008, Charlton Heston died at his home in Beverly Hills at the age of 84. You're watching An American Life on Newsmax TV.
Nestled in the rolling hills of Northern Virginia, Bull Run Regional Park is a place of natural beauty. But beneath these peaceful landscapes lies the site of one of the most pivotal and bloodiest battles of the Civil War. This is Bull Run, where on July 21st, 1861, the first major battle of the Civil War erupted. Known as the First Battle of Manassas in the South, it was a brutal clash between Union and Confederate forces, a battle that shattered illusions of a short war and signaled years of carnage to come. I'm Lucy Celia, and this is An American Place on Newsmax 2.
Welcome back to our special report. Let's take a close look at the investigation. Federal, state, and local authorities move fast to track down Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin. Our crime correspondent Jason Matera has a timeline with all of the key details.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
12:23 p.m. Wednesday, September 10th. One shot. Charlie Kirk drops. Utah Valley University becomes America's biggest crime scene.
Stop, folks!
Early indications are that a suspect is in custody. Then police walk it back. A campus of 46,000 is on a lockdown.
To whoever did this, we will find you.
12:39 p.m., 16 minutes later, the FBI arrives with local police chiefs. The manhunt is on. Agents recover shoe impressions, a palm print, and forearm imprints on a rooftop. Evidence the gunman was there, but not enough for an ID.
Our investigators have worked through those neighborhoods, contacting anybody they can with doorbell cameras, witnesses.
By Thursday morning, September 11th, the feds announced that they had recovered a rifle ditched in a wooded area near the university.
The FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets to transport forensic evidence and other evidence that will be analyzed and is being analyzed at our FBI laboratories in Quantico.
With surveillance video in hand, agents were confident that they could find the shooter on their own. But when the trail went cold, the images went wide.
We are actively looking for anyone and everyone who has any possible information relating to the shooting.
10 a.m., the first suspect photos drop. 10:45 a.m., a $100,000 reward is offered. 8 p.m., more than 9 hours later, the FBI releases video of the gunman jumping from the roof, plus new photos.
We have 20 federal, state, and local law enforcement partners that are working shoulder to shoulder to find the person who committed this horrific crime.
7,000 tips pour in by Thursday night, but nearly all fizzle. The break comes when a father spots his son in the images and alerts a family friend connected to law enforcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
10 p.m., 22-year-old Tyler Robinson is taken into custody more than 250 miles from the crime scene, charged with aggravated murder. Rooftop imprints, a rifle meant to stay hidden, and a father forced to turn in his own son. Piece by piece, an assassin's escape unraveled in 33 hours.
Incredible. Joining me now for a live panel discussion, retired FBI Special Agent in Charge and Chicago Police Department Superintendent J.P. Weiss. Also joining me, retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent, our friend John Nance. Gentlemen, thanks for coming in. JP, what stands out about that timeline? I mean, Kash Patel, the FBI chief, is out on social media tonight with one new piece of information saying that some law enforcement officials initially advised him against releasing those images, JP, saying that it might be a mistake. And those images are what led the dad to turn the son in. Isn't that kind of interesting that he was being advised, don't put it out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've wanted to try and work it without perhaps tipping off the subject of this investigation. But at some point, you have to release those photographs. Then you can bring in the public into this, and clearly that's what really led to the success in this case and having the father turn in his son. So I've always been a fan of getting the photographs out pretty early. You do risk the chance of maybe tipping off the subject, but in this case, I think it was instrumental into the case being a success.
Yeah, and helping him to crack it. John, your thoughts about the roof? Because every time I hear about that in the timeline, for the suspect to get up on that roof without security apparently stopping him with a high-powered rifle, does that suggest to you as a law enforcement expert that he had cased it previously, that he had planned this out? Because to be on that spot on the roof where from, I guess, 200 yards away with one shot, he could assassinate Charlie at the precise spot in the stage where Charlie would be, seems like it was all planned, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the event was advertised 6 days prior to its actual occurrence, so that individual had plenty of time to case the area, try to figure out exactly where the best position for him to be to take that shot would be. Obviously, he established where his best position would be. The way he exited the roof, though, I'm not sure that was exactly according to his plan. I mean, that's kind of pure speculation on my part. It just seemed like a very awkward way of getting out of the area. But obviously, there was a good deal of planning on his part in terms of getting off that shot.
Yeah, absolutely. JP, what about this new information? My colleague Rob Schmidt, we started the broadcast last hour with, he spoke to the President of the United States today, and President Trump said, yeah, the FBI has gathered this evidence that the shooter himself may not be transitioning, but he was in a romantic relationship living with someone who's transitioning from a man to a woman. We've seen trans shooters in Nashville and Minneapolis, but now someone in a relationship with someone in transition. And we're told that romantic partner of the suspect is now, quote unquote, cooperating with the FBI, claims to have had nothing to do with it. What does that tell you? How helpful might this be to find out more about the assassin?
Well, Ed, I definitely think it can go towards identifying what his motive would be. And in a murder case, that's not really that important, but I do think it's important to try to find out what made this kid turn so dark. You know, everybody from what I've read talks about how this was recent, his hatred. When did that come about? What caused that? So I think it's important to dig into that and say, what was his motive? Because it's important, I think, for law enforcement and for the public to know what made this kid turn, and to find out what it was and see if there's things that could have been done to prevent that, not only for him, but for other people as we go forward.
John, last thing, in speaking of prevention, like JP mentioned, I mean, how do you stop this kind of thing? I mean, you know, Charlie, unfortunately, was not an elected official, did not have a detail like President Trump, who thankfully seems to be heavily fortified now. There have been multiple assassination attempts. Outdoor events seem to be a real problem, obviously. We've seen a lot of this violence. It costs a lot of money, but with drone technology, there may be solutions. What's your final thought?
Well, I think there can be some fairly simple things, not taking for granted line of sight threats like rooftops, things of that nature. I don't want to be too critical of the local law enforcement. I don't know what their resources were. And in any event, this kind of attack is very, very difficult to prevent. But in terms of ideologically, you know, trying to prevent this, you know, we have ideologies taught in our universities that are nihilistic. And when you teach people that there aren't any eternal consequences for their actions, then it leaves them in a very vulnerable position to individuals who will exploit that and turn them to very devious causes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're going to stay on top of this. We appreciate your insight, JP and John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Have a good evening.
You too. Keep it right here. Our special report, Charlie Kirk, American hero, continues as we hear from one of his closest allies in Congress. As we head back live to Charlie's home state of Arizona, we are covering his life and legacy from coast to coast, all around this great country. Don't go anywhere. We'll have more. Charlie Kirk, American hero, right after this.
Rick Leventhal reported on the biggest stories of our time. Now he's fighting to bring you the truth, no matter what it takes. Watch The Leventhal Report, weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax 2.
25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
During an interview, she remarked, "If offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat, just get in." Born Sharon Krista Corrigan on September 2nd, 1948, the future astronaut was the oldest of 5 children. She spent her younger years in Farmington, Massachusetts, and attended Marion High School, where she met her future husband, Stephen McAuliffe. Krista McAuliffe's historic adventure began with this announcement.
And to choose as the first citizen passenger in the history of our space program, one of America's finest, a teacher.
In 1984, NASA started its search for a gifted teacher who could communicate with students from space. Over 11,000 educators applied. But in the end, NASA chose Krista McAuliffe, a high school social studies teacher from Concord, New Hampshire, to be their teacher in space. The following is a portion of her actual interview with NASA.
The shuttle project and the shuttle flight is certainly going to be a dream and a thrilling experience for me, but it will even be more wonderful to share it with the people back home.
As customary in preparation for their spaceflight, McAuliffe and fellow crew members underwent rigorous training. 6 fellow astronauts joined Krista McAuliffe on that fateful journey. They were Michael J. Smith, Dick Scobie, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Gregory Jarvis, and Judith Resnick. The morning of the launch, the temperature was a chilly 36 degrees, a factor that played a major role in the tragedy. At 11:39 a.m. on January 28, 1986, Challenger lifted off from the Kennedy Space Center and into the annals of history. 73 seconds into the launch, at an altitude of 46,000 feet, an O-ring in its rocket booster, made brittle by the cold, failed under maximum power.
Challenger, go with throttle up. Challenger, go with throttle up.
Causing an explosion and ripping the spacecraft apart. 2 minutes and 45 seconds later, the main cabin of the space shuttle splashed into the Atlantic Ocean at a speed of 200 miles an hour. The remains of the crew were recovered and returned to their families for burial, but not before being posthumously awarded the Congressional Space Medal of Honor. Krista McAuliffe was laid to rest in the town who knew her best, Concord, New Hampshire. You're watching An American Life on Newsmax TV.
Hi folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
How many unarmed black people, on average, are killed by police a year?
Well, I'd have to look up that statistic.
Guess.
Probably over 50%.
It's 15 people a year. 15. And that's not my number. That's the Washington Post that came up with it and did a national crime survey. And they even were generous and they said unarmed, meaning you had a weapon nearby or you had a knife that you dropped. So you're talking about police brutality for an incident that happens 15 times a year in a country of 350 million people.
Well, how come, my question to you then, how come you see it so often on social media?
Because you're being, that's a good question, Andrew, because you're being propagandized.
Ah, the facts. How about that? He was so calm and cool. That was the beauty of Charlie Kirk. And in the wake of his death, the left has been falsely claiming he was a fascist, a divisive figure. When you saw with your own eyes his own words, he was just speaking simple truth. Maybe that's why the left could not handle him. Let's bring in our next guest, Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. Congressman, welcome in. What's your thought on that? Because, you know, it's like they keep saying he was so nasty. He was calmly laying out facts, and the left didn't have answers.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the beautiful things of the way Charlie delivered his message was to actually encourage debate. Which is, by the way, which is unusual. You don't even have that in Congress where you're supposed to have debate. But he encouraged debate about facts, data, and he was so smart. I mean, he prepared himself. He understood the data. He would get the facts, and then he would, as you saw that in the clip you just played, in a rather gentle way, instruct and teach. And you know, what do you say? So many people would like to punch back, but Charlie didn't punch back. He actually just gave them the facts, and hopefully he wanted to persuade you. And that's critical. That's critical for what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, there's going to be a massive tribute week from Sunday out in your home there of the great state of Arizona. I wanted to get your reaction to what we heard from the Air Traffic Control Center there at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport as the mortal remains of Charlie came home. Listen.
On the visual 26, South 1555 Phoenix Sky, wind 2409, runway 26, good line. Clear line 26, Southwest 1555.
Welcome home, Charlie. You didn't deserve it. May God bless your family.
Charlie, you didn't deserve it. May God bless your family. And then I see that on this weekend, we see so much college football. The Tennessee Volunteers, they didn't have anything to do that I knew of. They had an empty seat for Charlie Kirk today, and there's a plaque that reads, Charlie Kirk, forever with Vol Nation. From the great state of Arizona to Tennessee. What was so special about this guy? So many people reacting.
Well, it gets to what we were talking about. He was open. He was transparent. I think he wanted to instruct. He lived his faith. He loved Christ. He preached of Christ. He talked of Christ, and he walked the walk. And I guess you could sense that knowing him.
Yeah.
So,
Congressman.
But, you know, he was open to people. He loved people. He loved life, and actually he was larger than life, and just a beautiful person.
He really was. And I share your emotion. I can hear it. I've known you a long time. Congressman, you're very kind to come on and share your thoughts. I know how close you were to him. We're thinking about you, your family, all your friends out there in the great state of Arizona. Be well, sir.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate that so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. You can see how much Charlie moved so many people. And you just heard about his faith as well. and how important that was to him. And that's something we're going to talk about with a couple of close friends. In his own words, how Charlie Kirk wanted to be remembered. It was all about his faith and his love of Jesus Christ, his close relationship with the Lord. We're going to talk about it as our special coverage. Charlie Kirk, American Hero, continues right after this.
Hi folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
شما می‌بینید که الان مرکز فساد امریکا را جوان‌ها رفتن گرفتن و امریکایی هم که در اونجا بوده گرفتن و اون لانه فساد را به دست آوردن و امریکا هم هیچ غلطی نمی‌تونه بکنه.
In January of 1979, the Shah of Iran fled to the U.S. after losing control of his country to Islamic radicals.
I was taken outside, and the hordes were already out there screaming, death to the hostages.
Soon after, on November 4th, 1979, Colonel Charles Scott, one of the 52 people at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, was taken hostage after a mob had ransacked the grounds. Throughout their captivity, embassy personnel were subjected to torture and harassment.
I was beaten and I was hung by my wrists.
At first, the Ayatollah Khomeini opposed the embassy seizure, but quickly changed his mind once he realized he could use the seizure to unite his country while declaring himself Iran's new leader. The hostages were taken in hopes of forcing the U.S. to return the Shah to stand trial. Following the Shah's death from medical complications, Iran changed their demands to an apology from the U.S., immunity from reprisals, the release of Iran's assets, and a pledge of no future U.S. interference in Iran. 5 months into the hostage crisis, President Carter ordered a rescue attempt using the Army's Delta Force. The bold plan called for 8 U.S. helicopters to rendezvous in the Iranian desert and launch a covert raid on the embassy, rescuing the hostages. But the plan ended as 3 helicopters were not operational and the mission was aborted. As U.S. helicopters withdrew, one struck a transport plane, with both exploding, killing 8 U.S. servicemen. The mission had failed.
It was my decision to attempt the rescue operation. It was my decision to cancel it when problems developed in the placement of our rescue team for a future rescue operation. The responsibility is fully my own.
And the chances of Jimmy Carter's re-election disappeared that fateful night. Ronald Reagan won the election that year, promising to finish the job against Iran. After 444 days of captivity, on January 20th, 1980, on the very day and very hour of his inauguration as America's 40th president, Iran released the American hostages. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
It used to be common. Our newscasters had common sense. They gave it to you straight, just the facts, and real news. John Bachman is like them. He tells it like it is. Catch him every weekday on NEWSMAX2.
How do you want to be remembered?
I mean, if I die?
Everything just goes away. How would you, if you could be associated with one thing, how would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith.
Wow. Charlie Kirk, in his own words just a few months ago, so sharing with the world how he wants to be remembered. So let's bring in a couple of great friends live now to discuss. Host of The Pulse here on Newsmax, David Harris Jr., plus the Faith Director at the U.S. Department of the Interior, Pastor Ben Graham. Gentlemen, thanks for coming in. David Harris, when you hear him say that about how he wants to be remembered, and I go on social media and I look at Erica Kirk before we heard from her. 4 days ago, before Charlie was killed, she posted simply Psalm 34:8. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. She posted that, David, before the assassination.
Yeah, Charlie and Erica were both very strong in their faith. I first met Erica, I believe, in 2018. It was before they were married. And it was because of Turning Point and Charlie that I probably rose to prominence as fast as I did. Charlie believed in me, and he would bring me into the Black Leadership Summits back in 18, 19, and 20. And I always had a strong message of faith, and he loved that. We had some pretty amazing conversations about faith. But Charlie was a man that walked it. He was a man that lived it. He was a man that loved Jesus, loved the Bible, and it was the bedrock and the strong force behind everything that he did. Every single thing that he did was backed up through Scripture. He was a living, modern-day apostle, and that's why I say he was martyred. He's somebody that, just like the apostles that walked with Jesus, said, "Follow me as I follow Christ," and then he lived it and followed through with it. He was prophetic. He was a visionary. He could see what was coming down the road years, decades from now, and he would make decisions and pivot and say, this is what we need to do. If we're going to win this battle for our youth, for our nation, and for God, and even bring God back into the equation, this is what we need to do. He was a visionary leader. He was a very good friend, and he is sorely and sadly missed. But I truly believe that I've been praying and wrecked, and God, why? And I truly believe that I felt like God say, his impact is going to be insurmountable because of this.
Absolutely.
Had Charlie stayed in the bubble he was in with MAGA and with TPUSA, that is kind of a bubble I've seen and heard so many more people testify, share on social media, that they didn't know who he was, but because of this, they began to go look and see what he was talking about.
Yes.
And they've been inspired with their faith.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful thing in the middle of such a tragedy.
Yeah, we can hear the emotion. You were inspired. So many of us were. Pastor, you get the final word.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing the life he lived. We know this. I've been blown away at the amount of support, but I've also seen some so-called Christians that have joined in and saying some negative things about Charlie. And I challenge everybody, watch every video out there, and you will find that he is not only a man of faith and conviction, but he was a man that showed his faith and love. He cared for people, and that's why so many young people liked to hear Charlie speak. And I've heard from many parents that have said, I couldn't believe how broken my children are over this, and I didn't realize how much of an impact Charlie had on them. But almost every young person has seen a Charlie video, and that was his mission, and he did such a great job. And I know he's standing in the presence of the Lord, and he's hearing, well done, good and faithful servant, for the great job that he did. And he's inspired us. And there are hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands, and maybe even beyond that, people who are saying, I'm ready to step up.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be like Charlie and share my faith and not be ashamed of what I believe in.
So beautiful indeed. Pastor David, some tough times, dark days, as you both noted, but very uplifting and moving as well. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still ahead, some of my final thoughts, and some of my colleagues here at Newsmax talk a little bit about the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk right after this.
Hi folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
During an interview, she remarked, if offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat, just get in. Born Sharon Krista Corrigan on September 2nd, 1948, the future astronaut was the oldest of 5 children. She spent her younger years in Farmington, Massachusetts, and attended Marion High School, where she met her future husband, Stephen McAuliffe. Krista McAuliffe's historic adventure began with this announcement.
And to choose as the first citizen passenger in the history of our space program, one of America's finest, a teacher.
In 1984, NASA started its search for a gifted teacher who could communicate with students from space. Over 11,000 educators applied, but in the end, NASA chose Krista McAuliffe a high school social studies teacher from Concord, New Hampshire, to be their teacher in space. The following is a portion of her actual interview with NASA.
The shuttle project and the shuttle flight is certainly going to be a dream and a thrilling experience for me, but it will even be more wonderful to share it with the people back home.
As customary in preparation for their spaceflight, McAuliffe and fellow crew members underwent rigorous training. 6 fellow astronauts joined Krista McAuliffe on that fateful journey. They were Michael J. Smith, Dick Scobie, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Gregory Jarvis, and Judith Resnick. The morning of the launch, the temperature was a chilly 36 degrees, a factor that played a major role in the tragedy. At 11:39 a.m. on January 28, 1986, Challenger lifted off from the Kennedy Space Center and into the annals of history. 73 seconds into the launch, at an altitude of 46,000 feet, an O-ring in its rocket booster, made brittle by the cold, failed under maximum power.
Challenger, go with throttle up. Challenger, go with throttle up.
Causing an explosion and ripping the spacecraft apart. 2 minutes and 45 seconds later, the main cabin of the space shuttle splashed into the Atlantic Ocean at a speed of 200 miles an hour. The remains of the crew were recovered and returned to their families for burial, but not before being posthumously awarded the Congressional Space Medal of Honor. Krista McAuliffe was laid to rest in the town who knew her best, Concord, New Hampshire. You're watching An American Life on Newsmax TV.
Stressed and fatigued? Brain feeling foggy? Don't have the energy you used to? It may be your liver. You must protect your body's most precious asset. Best-selling author and surgeon Dr. Russell Blaylock has developed natural solutions. His breakthrough new book, The Liver Cure, will help you boost energy, detoxify your body, clear brain fog, and reignite your metabolism. Improve your health and quality of life. Get The Liver Cure today.
Over these 2 hours, we have all seen how Charlie Kirk touched so many lives. Here are some of my Newsmax colleagues reflecting this week on Charlie's awesome legacy.
After that, at the age of 18, he founded Turning Point USA. And over the last decade, he's traveled to college campuses all around the country. Charlie was about speech. He was about ideas. He was not about this. He was not about violence.
Charlie Kirk, moving youth, a conservative leader, a man of faith, a father of 2, 31 years old.
It's impossible to put into words how great a loss this is, how impressive Charlie Kirk was, how much he accomplished in such a short time, and how much he could have done, including, many believe, maybe becoming president of this nation one day. It is so important to honor him and his memory and his legacy and find a way to carry on his mission.
As he was doing what he did best, having conversations, engaging in conversation, engaging with debate, which used to be revered in this country.
Some wonderful reflections right there. And now one last one from me. The last time I saw my friend Charlie was December 22nd. I know because we took a photo right before Christmas. I was having dinner with my dear Alana and some friends, and we were right next to President Trump, actually. And my son Patrick, who's 24, you see the president, obviously, and Charlie was 2 seats away. He said, "Dad, there's Charlie Kirk. He's one of the young people inspired by him." We went over, said hi to Charlie. He simply said, "Merry Christmas." And I said, "Can you believe the election?" And he said, "Ed, they tried to put the president in prison, and now he's about to be inaugurated again." And he had a big part in making that happen. Charlie was beaming, and now somehow he's gone. But I am sure he was thrilled by the first couple hundred days, and I am certain his voice, as the president said this week, is only going to grow. Thank you for joining us for this special report. Stay tuned to Newsmax all week long, and check out Newsmax.com for updates as we get ready for that celebration of life next weekend. And we here at Newsmax continue to honor the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk, American hero. Thanks for watching.
Every time you turn on the news, there's some new horrific tragedy.
Join Franklin Graham and Greg Laurie
It seems like it's just escalating.
I think it's scary to see all these things happen.
Plus, music from Charity Gale and Michael W. Smith. And a timeless message from Billy Graham.
I've been asked hundreds of times why God allows tragedy.